Hope everybody's doing great. I'm actually very proud to say that, yes, I am a Gray Eagle. I will be turning 58 years old in December. I'm a father of 5, and Charlie, you're not out of this because you're my clicker. I do a lot of public presentations, and I need the clicker.
The other very important person is Bob. Bob is our IT for J.L.
Bob may be IT, but I need you, Charlie, to be my clicker. Okay. While he brings that up, I'll just kind of explain. I'm actually a father of 5. I suffer from something that I call PFS. And PFS is it's a fairly well-known condition. That stands for Proud Father Syndrome. And if you're a mom out there, I call it for you, I call it PFPS, and that means Proud Female Parent Syndrome, because if I say PMS, like Proud Mother Syndrome, that doesn't go very well. So I suffer from Proud Father Syndrome, got great kids. But one of the discussions that we have at my house is we wrangle over the English language, because I always say, this is not bald, this is called thinning. Now, hear me out. Okay, I'll hit that again. With my sons, I'm always clarifying it. This is not bald, this is called thinning. And that's important to me because I'd rather be a Gray Eagle than a bald eagle. I'm working, I'm doing the best I know how. I'm also a little bit demoralized because Charlie said, "Will you please come speak?" And I said, "Of course, I love pilot peer support. I'd love to talk about Wingman." What he didn't share is that this was a car show. And I can proudly tell you that in the parking lot, unbeknownst to any of you, I have the most abominable piece of machinery you've ever seen. It's a 1996 faded purple Volvo wagon that is so ugly that it's never, we call it TPT. It stands for the purple turd. My wife actually loves it because she says, "Greg, as long as you can drive that car when you're away from home, I never have to worry about it, because no woman anywhere would want to be with a man who drives that." So it works very well. I came here in my Volvo, but it really is a great opportunity to be here. And interestingly enough, I'm going to give you kind of an update on a program that we have, maybe you may have heard, called Project Wingman. But for me to speak to you means a lot to me because of what you do with Gray Eagles. And let me kind of explain. I graduated from high school 40 years ago when I was a class officer, and I just put a lot of time and effort into getting all my own classmates together after 40 years. It was a really great reunion. Everybody had a great time. And the beautiful thing about being 40 years out of high school is people just didn't care so much about who made more money or how people looked. We were just so glad to be together for that shared experience, right? And the way I describe it, at this reunion, it was fascinating. I had everybody there, classmates from literally mathematics to millionaires. And we all mixed well because we shared that experience of growing up together. And that's what I think about the power of the Gray Eagles, is you may all have slightly different lives, but we really share that time in flight deck. And that's a bond that we will always have. And the reason I'm talking about that right now is I'm getting ready to talk about pilot peer support, is that's the game changer in our lives. The people that we know, the help that we give each other. You cannot make enough government programs. You cannot have enough rules to take care of everybody. We're trying. How's that working, right? It really comes down to taking care of each other as families and as friends, and in this case, as colleagues. So to everybody who took the time to come here today, I actually salute you, because what you're doing is you are honoring an important bond, and you are taking the time to honor those relationships and to celebrate the great world that we had and have as aviators. And no one will ever take that away. It's a really important thing. So this whole thing called pilot peer support, some of you may have heard about it, some of you may not, but I'm here with a program called Project Wingman.
Untrainable.
Yes, he can be taught. So with Project Wingman, as most of you know, but for those of you who are not familiar, we launched this program in 2011. I'll give you a little history. But what Project Wingman is, it's for all the active pilots of American Airlines. And if I, for example, come off a trip and I find out that my son has gone off the rails and is now in jail after a weekend of partying that I didn't know about, and I'm kind of overwhelmed, I can call Project Wingman. If I'm feeling down on life, but I'm also worried about talking to anybody because they could say the wrong thing and give me the wrong diagnosis, and they could take away my medical, I can call Project Wingman. Anything that happens to us as pilots, yes, even pilots, stuff happens. Project Wingman is the way, just as you do, that we take care of each other. And it's a phenomenal program. It's an honor to be part of it. And one of the ways that I wound up in this whole Project Wingman enterprise was when I came to American Airlines in 1998, 25 years ago. I didn't know much about the airline industry, but I knew one thing. It's kind of unstable. There's a lot of things you can't predict. And in my Air Force squadron, I had a few guys come up to me and say, "Oh, you got hired at American Airlines? You're set for life." And I said, "Well, I've got 3 questions for you. Number 1, where's Pan Am? Number 2, where's Eastern? And number 3, where's Braniff?" And so I stayed. I stayed as a guardsman, National Guard, because great way to serve my country, and if American Airlines tanked, I could feed the kids, right? So I became an Air National Guardsman. So the KC-135, and just my own journey along the way, I actually picked up a graduate degree in counseling. And then I got to know one of my guard chaplains. Great guy. He actually wasn't a pastor or a priest or a rabbi. He was a college professor. But through his own path in life, he became a military chaplain. And I love the way he did this. And the other thing that was cool about chaplains is you could tell these guys anything, and they ain't tell nobody. In the military as a chaplain, you can tell a chaplain literally that you took somebody's life, and they cannot reveal that. So in the chaplaincy, it's 100% confidentiality, and I love that. Because I knew anything I could talk to my chaplain about, it was just between us. Well, through a few changes of events, I switched gears, and so for my last 7 years, I became the chaplain for my Air National Guard unit, and I retired in 2014 as the wing chaplain. A great experience, but the coolest part about being a chaplain as a pilot was I could speak pilot. So you see, if you're in the military and you're, say, like a special ops guy, or you're a sailor, or you're a pilot, if the chaplain comes in and he doesn't understand what you do, he's forever going to be kind of, or she's ever going to be kind of a nice person, but they don't really understand. But when I would show up as a chaplain in my guard unit, frankly, because my airline job, more flying hours than they had, we could really talk, and they felt comfortable, because I understood the life that they had. And so when I retired, that was when this Project Wingman thing started standing up. And I said, that's my calling. That's where I'm going with this, because what is Project Wingman? It's pilots helping pilots. It's not clinical psychologists. It's not well-intended managers. It's pilots taking care of pilots. And I already knew the power of that. Because again, we speak the own language. When somebody's worried about their medical, I know what that means. Because that's the life that we all live. So, click. For the things I'm going to share today, and I'll kind of pick up the pace, I'm going to first touch on an introduction and a case study. I want to tell you about a pilot that I've been working with. I'm going to give you a little bit more of the timeline, the overview of this whole enterprise we call Project Wingman, kind of show you where we are now. I'm going to give you a little bit of a mathematical modeling to help you understand why this pilot peer support thing is so important. And then we'll go ahead and wrap up with conclusions, and if you guys have any questions or comments, let's make it happen. So, a little bit more on me. This is my family. Oh, you skipped it. He took away my punchline. But it's cool. On the left, you'll see...
Hey, let me explain something. I got trained here. You got to say click.
Okay, I will say click. I will say click. Anyway, this is my family. It's my wife, Amy. I've got 5 sons, like I said. The tall brunette is my daughter-in-law. And the little man right there, he is my first, since I specialize in boys, right? 5 boys, grandson. And in her swollen belly, if I can say that, is, click, Friday the 13th. I just got my girl. After 5 boys and a grandson, that's my granddaughter. So let's give it up. So that is Addie. And we all know that family life is important. Family life is tough. Anyone in aviation that doesn't believe that isn't being honest. In fact, a joke that I tell is when you go in for your flight physical and you're supposed to report counseling, you don't have to report marriage counseling. You don't. I'm starting to say, you better report if you're not getting marriage counseling, right? Because it's a tough business to keep families together and keep everybody communicating. So I'm on board with all that. Got this great family. served as a chaplain, retired from the military. I've been here 25 years. It's been a great life. And so part of my whole deal with Project Wingman is this is my chance to pay it forward. And one of the things I know is life isn't quite always so perfect. You know, it's not always the beautiful families and the kids and everything going well together. And there's a pilot that I've been working with for basically since I started with Project Wingman. He's kind of someone I use as a case study. And he said that he's willing to let me tell you today kind of his story, what he's been through. And again, he's one of our pilots here at American Airlines. So click. Here's my case study. For starters, the pilot I've been working with all these years, he actually grew up with a really tough home. If you ever saw that movie, One Flew Over a Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson, his birth father was actually a patient in that hospital with a mental disorder. And his father was discharged from the mental hospital. It wasn't his first time that happened. Things at home got worse. There was a divorce. And this pilot, as a kid, with his siblings and his single mom, moved away to a small town. He was kind of undersized, bullied at school a little bit, but he wasn't going to be a victim. He kind of set some goals in his life and decided that maybe flying airplanes could be a great way to go. So he got a scholarship to an aviation college. Click. Since my case study pilot has been at American Airlines, as a new hire guy on probation, he had to go back to his guard unit. He got deployed during the war, came back, went from flight engineer to flying the MD-80. Finally, the OE is complete. He's settling his life down, and he came back to his family to start this airline dream that he'd always had. And his spouse met him at the door to say, you know, you're a great guy, but you're not my guy. We're going to go ahead and part ways. There's going to be a divorce, and good luck to you. I'm going to take the 2 kids. Good luck. His older brother, from all the drama growing up, still dealing with a lot of depression, even though he's a very successful electrical engineer. Click. Siblings. He's got a younger brother who had such a big drug problem that his niece and nephew were taken away from his younger brother because he had a drug problem. A sister who got, unfortunately, his birth dad's DNA, bipolar, and she's had some struggles with illegal drugs. Click. His best friend in high school, a good buddy of his, they were tennis players together, was killed. This is all while he was at American. Was killed while he was driving home from work one day by someone just making a bad decision. Wasn't even drunk. Left behind a wife and 3 kids. Click. His college roommate, very close to. They shared space. Another fellow pilot. He died from suicide. He got down about life and decided that all hope was lost. Got in the family car, drove 2 blocks away, and finished his life with a 357 Magnum. Click. Really nice lady friend from his high school days. She was a married mom. She died from cancer, leaving behind 4 kids. Click. This pilot that I've been working with had a great cousin, worked in the airline industry on the ramp in San Francisco. So he'd go to these West Coast trips, spend time with his cousin. Loved seeing his cousin, until he got a call from his cousin's wife that said, hey, Kevin's been dealing with alcohol. Life's been really hard. I want you to keep in touch with him and see if we can get him through this. And the cousin started doing well, started thriving, until unfortunately got another phone call about several weeks later from his cousin's wife and said, I just found Kevin upstairs dead in a pool of blood. Click. Had a great mentor, a guy that he got along very well with, about 20 years older, who, especially growing up, with a tough family, showed him the way, did a lot of good things together, kind of almost a big brother, father figure. He wound up making some bad decisions, convicted of a felony, was and is incarcerated. And finally, click. This pilot I've been working with was flying a trip, and he got a call from his ex-wife. He said, hey, our son is unconscious, but he's alive. He was just found in his dormitory room. He made an attempt to hang himself in the showers. So, with all that this guy went through, you would think, he'd be pretty beat up, but believe it or not, he's doing okay. In fact, he would tell you that he's got a great life. And some of the keys to how this guy has done okay is he's had an amazing support system. He's never been afraid to get counseling. He's not afraid of that word, the C word, or coaching. He's used Project Wingman. He's gotten great support from chief pilots, and he's doing well with his career. And the second part of this case story that I just shared with you that's a little more salient is I actually just told you my story. All of those things are things that happened to me. That is my story. So you see the beautiful picture of this family, and it is beautiful, right? But the son who just made me a grandfather again, I almost lost him. He lost hope and got in some really dark places. The father of the pilot, my father, who was bipolar, we actually finally buried him in November. And thank the good Lord, he finally got some help. He was on the medication that would have saved him decades ago, but at least he was able to die with dignity. Because about 2 or 3 years ago, my own father in his 80s was homeless, or living in a homeless shelter. And it wasn't because we didn't care. He just didn't have the mental ability to get along with people. He was struggling. My brother with the 4 DUIs, he came to my dad's funeral, but he showed up drunk, so he's still battling with drugs and with the drinking. My sister, who's also bipolar, unfortunately, I bought her plane tickets to come out to our dad's funeral. She couldn't come. She's just too scared. She has not left her room in Southern California since coronavirus kicked in. Now, you may wonder, so why is this guy with the microphone telling us all his sad stories? I'm telling the sad stories because we all can thrive. Every single person in this room, you're winners. You're retired airline pilots. You're alpha. You've gotten it done. But I also know that if I were to have a confidential conversation with every single person in this room, you're still battling some of your own battles. You still have some of your own demons. And this is just the human condition. This is life. And some people want to say, oh, life is so perfect, and others say life is so terrible. And I say it's a little of each, isn't it? Life is beautiful. It's incredible. But it can also drive us to our knees. And nothing is more tragic to me when I see good people think that they don't have any friends, to think that they don't have any support, and to think that they don't have anywhere to go. And my friend Charlie Carreri, he was instrumental in launching this pilot peer revolution. So if I may, click. We are actually not the first pilot peer support program. Delta Airlines, we started in 2011, and the catalyst was we had a Czech pilot, some of you may have known, a Czech airman named Bob Schwartz. He got overwhelmed with life, and he was the guy who had everything. I'd met him myself. Great family, military career, and he died by suicide. And it came out later that he was battling very, very serious depression. But like a lot of pilots, he thought incorrectly that he had no hope. He had no options. So we lost Bob. And at the time, Charlie was helping on the union side with the EAP. That's the employee assistance, to try to get people, help. And he went to the company, and they agreed it's time to do something. We can do better. I think that summer, when we lost Bob Schwartz at American Airlines in 2011, we lost 6 pilots by suicide by August. So we had a problem. Clearly, pilots had needs, and many of them lost hope. So even if you can't save everybody, if you can even just help one person, it's worth it. And Charlie took it to a whole new level. Click. So actually in 2002, Northwest Airlines launched a program called PAN, Pilot Assistance Network. I laugh a little bit because when Northwest merged with Delta, they wanted to do away with it because the official Delta word is Delta pilots don't have problems. But they do, they've got that program still. But I was, for 15, 16 years, a Salt Lake City commuter. I would ask my buddies at Delta, so what do you think about PAN? And you know what they'd always say? What's PAN? To this day, they don't really understand the program. What Charlie did with his team, and I was able to join him a year later in 2012, was we got the union and the management together. And to this day, we're the only airline who does it the way we do it, where it's a combined company-union effort to make sure that all of our pilots are taken care of. And click. It was going so well that in 2013, Charlie was actually given a management position. And the whole idea was, why should Charlie have to beg chief pilots for favors? Let's elevate him so he can get pilots what they need. And it started to work really well. And we were his volunteers, his union guys. We all worked together. Fantastic. Click. Here's where it got interesting. US Airways, American Airlines, we started merging, right? Well, the attorneys, they said, this is our opportunity. The American Airlines attorneys who were already suspicious about Project Wingman, because this could just be a liability, right? Oh my goodness, we have pilots that know that other pilots actually have personal problems. We don't want that. That's a liability. And then the US Airways, their attorneys said, you bet, let's trash can this, let's be done with this. And they literally had put Project Wingman on the chopping block to get rid of this program. Too much of a liability. And then, click, 2015. And if you don't remember it, I'll remind you. There was a German co-pilot. He was depressed. He was seeing a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist said, I recommend, son, you do not fly. But he chose not to. And under the rules at the time in Europe, psychiatrists were not allowed to divulge anything. So he could not report this kid. So on a flight, when he was one day feeling particularly depressed, in an Airbus 320 full of passengers.
Oh. Cheryl?
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. I just want to make sure you're okay.
Yes, thank you.
No problem. So yeah, on a March day in 2015, it's an Airbus 320 full of passengers. The captain checks off to use the lab, and our depressed German co-pilot felt like the best way to deal with his problems was to fly this Airbus into the French Alps, and he killed everybody. And when that happened, there's an outcry in the world of aviation. Oh my goodness, we have to screen these pilots. We have to make sure that we don't get anybody in the flight deck that has problems. And then his pilots were like, well, we're just going to lie more about our problems because we all got them, right? And that's when, instead of being cast aside by the attorneys, Charlie found himself on Capitol Hill talking to Congress and talking to national committees about the way we have to take care of pilots is to give them a safe space where they can talk about what's really happening in their lives, to give that confidential promise so that they can get the help that they need. So what was a tragedy in 2015 became a turning point, and Project Wingman became the benchmark of the industry. And since that time, I watched Charlie help United Airlines set up their program. It's called SOAR. They're doing great work. I went to their conference a couple weeks ago. He helped our friends at Southwest. This is called Project Lift. And basically all the major carriers in the United States have something like Project Wingman. Click. So in 2021, my good friend Charlie said, it's been a good ride. I'm going to go back to line flying. And I got a phone call. He said, hey, Greg, we've heard that you do some good work with Project Wingman. Hey, can I answer that for you? So, sorry, just kidding. So yeah, I just got a phone call. Said, hey, Greg, we know you've been doing this Wingman stuff for a long time, and you've got that chaplain experience. Any chance you'd be willing to do it full time? And I said, absolutely. It has nothing to do with me and any honor for me. It has to do with the legacy that Charlie started and that I want to see continue. So as of summer of 22, I actually got hired on the management side, and we're working great as a team with the union and taking care of our pilots. Click. We just got a new pilot on the APA side named Peter Gillespie. He is now kind of running the volunteers themselves and doing a great job. So Peter and I, we're buddies. He's the union guy, I'm the company guy. We go to conferences together. We were just in Chicago a couple weeks ago at the United Conference. And it's just, that's what we need. We need company support, we need union support, and we're getting it done. Click. So this is something that came out in 2015 after they're trying to figure out how do we take care of pilots. It said the successful implementation of pilot support programs benefits from a joint collaboration between the air carrier to include senior management support, its pilot representatives, and pilot peer volunteers. It's exactly what Project Wingman is. And I'm kind of now acting as kind of the company piece to make sure that our pilots in need get the support that they deserve. Click. So where are we today? Click. We honestly are the industry's best. The PAN program's been around longer, but they're still very private about it. We have a lot of visibility. We probably get an average of close to 4 phone calls a day from our pilots. And we're working together with the union and the company. Click. We're up to 45 volunteers. We get a lot of phone calls coming in. We now have 2 pilots, 24/7, around the clock, ready to answer phones to help people in need. Click. And one of the coolest parts about my job is I get to talk to the new pilots that are coming in. And if you don't know the volume, we are hiring like 2,000 pilots a year, maybe even like 2,500. And I just talked to one of the guys helping training all these new pilots, and I said, so how long is this going to be going on? So he said, I've been told we're going to continue to hire 2,000 to 3,000 pilots a year for the next 3 or 4 years. So you think about the incredible turnover when a lot of us are going to be, retired. We have a whole new generation, and we want to make sure that they know that they don't have to suffer in silence. So every week when they come in, I talk to them. They bring their wives, their husbands, I talk to them. I explain that you're at a company that has great support, and we're going to help you through life because we're all going to go through something. It's not an if, it's a when. Click. So something that's kind of shifted is Charlie was so instrumental to Project Wingman that everyone used to say it's Charlie. It's Project Wingman. It's Charlie. He was the face of Project Wingman. And we loved him. We loved working with him. We loved working for him. He did great work. Well, Charlie timed out. I am not the face of Project Wingman. Project Wingman is way too much. I don't want to be the face of Project Wingman. The face of Project Wingman, you see our logo, it's Project Wingman. And I think nothing could be a better legacy to Charlie than to see this going 20, 30, 50 years from now and continuing this worldwide revolution of giving pilots permission. Instead of old school, I'm going to take care of it with myself, by myself, quietly with a revolver, to I'm going to work with other pilots because we're all in this thing called life together and we're going to pull each other up and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that everyone has safe space. Click. We're starting to look into more emphasis on resiliency. There's a saying by the Archbishop Desmond Tutu where he basically said there comes a time when you've pulled so many people out of the river that it's time to walk upstream and find out why they're falling in. And that's something we want to start doing as pilots because we see a lot of trends. A lot of the people that I'm helping in trouble, they don't have any sick time, or they're not taking good care of themselves physically, or there's a lot of family drama that maybe they could have taken care of a little earlier with some counseling or some mentoring. So that's one of the things we're trying to push our program now. It's not just reacting to chaos and tragedy and crisis, which will happen, but also giving pilots their own tools to prevent it and to make them more resilient when it takes place. So that's a kind of a way we're going. And then I hope you guys can see this yellow print. As we look toward the future, I feel very strong about this ethically. If I'm passionate about helping a 64-year-old pilot get through whatever's troubling him, I don't quit caring about him when he turns 65. So what does that mean? Well, that's one of the reasons why Charlie and I and Alan and I, why I joined Grey Eagles, because I think we need to talk some more, right? And it's nothing formal, but I've got a wonderful wingman volunteer who's going to be turning 65 here in a couple of months. And he's told me, hey, I would very much consider continuing to function as like a wingman in the retired community. And I feel the same way. When I turn 65, I hope that I can continue to help my fellow brothers and sisters and their families. So what shape, what sphere? Don't know exactly, but that's one of the reasons why I joined the Grey Eagles. Because I think we all owe it to each other, whether we're active pilots, whether we're cadets coming in, or whether we're now on the backside enjoying the fruits of our hard work in our retirement years. Why wouldn't we keep taking care of each other and being organized about it? The beautiful thing is you guys are already doing it in a sense, right? You guys are wingmen to each other. You're keeping track of each other. You're hanging out together and spending time. And that's what so much of a healthy life is. It's just keeping those relationships alive. So this is something I like to use when we talk about pilots, right? You know, the stereotype of a pilot, he's got it all together, there's no problems, he's in control, he knows how to handle things. Well, if you stop to think about life, right? If you look at the old-fashioned bell curve, to be normal means you're about 2/3. So that means 1/3 of our pilots are either doing really well or really not so well. If you think about physical health, we probably have about 2/3 of us are doing well. And a few of us are great out there running those marathons and getting done, and a few are really, really struggling. And as you look at us as a pilot group, we're up to now about 15,200, okay? We have a formidable number of people that have needs. We can't ignore that. We can't just say, well, that's not what pilots do, because pilots are everything. So, click. Just to give you a couple of numbers. With our 15,200 pilots, click. Click. Charlie, you're great. I appreciate it. So just by virtue of mathematics, that means almost 5,000 of us by definition, right? Statistical definition, are abnormal. We could be abnormally good, or we could be abnormally not so good. My joke is I was the first officer for 22 years. Every pilot I flew with, every pilot at American Airlines, they were great. Some were really great, a few not so great. A handful were ingrates, but everyone was great. So, if you take it a little bit further, when you talk about 2 standard Ds on the downside, that means we've got probably 350 people who are probably really, really struggling in the mental health arena. Click. And then when you get way out there, 3 standard Ds, that means we've got 21 pilots who are probably basically off the rails, trying to keep it together. Those numbers don't go away. I see management people all the time. Greg, how's it going? I hope it's quiet. And I say, you know what, as a father of 5, when it got quiet at home, I was scared to death, right? So when people are calling us, we like it. We know life will be happening. If nothing else, we're going to be burying our parents, right? We're going to be dealing with our off-the-rails teenagers, or our marriage is going to be tough. If people aren't calling us, that means we're doing it wrong. When we're busy, we're doing it right. And that's why we have to be careful with the public, because they're like, oh my goodness, pilots are unstable. No, they're not. They're human. They're human. Click. And so that's why I say keep in mind, click, 2020-10. They say that every year in America, about 20% of all Americans are going to have a depressive episode. About 20% of all Americans are going to feel a diagnosable level of anxiety. 10% of us are going to have substance abuse issues. So let's theorize. Let's say as pilots, we're only half that. We're better, we're stronger. That still means that we've got over 1,500 pilots who are dealing with depression. 1,500, okay? And it's not my goal to get everyone in a clinic and get them on drugs. That's not my point. They just need people to talk to. They need to know that I've got a counselor you can talk to. He's not going to screw up your career. You can talk in confidence and you can get help, and it's not a problem. And we're moving the needle. At that Chicago conference, the air surgeon for the FAA is now saying, if you don't get a diagnosis or you're not addicted, you don't even have to report counseling. Man, if every pilot knew that for the last 30 years, right? We'd probably be a few suicides short of where we are now. So we are moving the trend. And I think the math helps us to realize we're still human. Yeah, we're great machines, right? But we're still human. Flip. So I love this cartoon. If you can't read it, I'll read it for you. It shows the crocodile with the psychiatrist. You know those teeny tiny little birds that walk around so trustingly inside a crocodile's mouth? Well, I've just been eating those little guys like popcorn. Click. So the truth is, click. We all got stuff. Everyone in this room, you got stuff. Not trying to bag on you, but it's life. We're human. Click. So the real question is, how do we handle it? What are safe ways to handle it? And that's what this Wingman thing's all about. It's about living better, and it's about taking time to take care of each other. Click. So I heard this quote at one of the conferences I went, and it was just from a union kid who was trying to do a good job. I think he's working for NetJets or something like that. And I overheard him say, you know what? Getting this all set up isn't easy, but my program is a great program. Every time I assist a pilot in need, and they in turn improve their life. And I would say the same thing about Gray Eagles. Gray Eagles is a great program every time we reach out to each other and improve each other's lives. So I honestly don't just want to talk about the work we do at Wingman. I want to say, keep up the good work with Gray Eagles. Let's keep trying to get more of our retired friends involved and engaged so we can be wingmen to each other. And again, like I said, I'm serious about, maybe we can up the level a little bit and get some of our retired guys who have done this wingman stuff to get a little bit more active and involved. So those are my words. I'm more than happy now to turn it over if you have any questions or comments. Charlie?
Any questions?